Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Hello and welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, the podcast where we help independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the 25th time we've said this in
Yeah,
front of the
it's
camera.
like the 25th anniversary.
It kind of is.
In
Exactly.
a way,
I mean,
right?
not for like years.
Not years.
Because that'd be crazy.
Yeah, not even months.
Not even months.
Episodes.
Episodes, which is debatably more important.
Yes. I would argue that it is more important in podcast land.
We're really just kind of taking casual today, reviewing the past 24 episodes, talking about things we've been doing. I'm kind of recapping it, things that have worked, things that haven't, talking about new ideas and plans for the future, and verbalizing out there what's going to be happening so you can keep us accountable and keep an eye out for what's coming.
Absolutely. We just want to cue you guys into so you guys can determine whatever is most useful for you. Hopefully you're listening to at least every episode. I mean, that's what we'd want, obviously, but hopefully you're at least listening to the episodes that really pertain to you guys and are getting a lot out of it at this point.
Found it. All right. 56.1% of podcasts had 10 episodes or fewer. 17% had 50 episodes or more. So
The mean was 30.
mean is 30.
Okay.
So-
So you average 30 an episode, or there's an average of 30 episodes per podcast out there.
So we're close.
We're getting close.
We're getting close.
We're going to supersede that.
Well, that's part of, I'm just kind of talking about statistic wise. Trying to bring it back to music real quick. I got to sprinkle some music talk in it.
Definitely.
A lot of people, I say often that there's 40 to 60,000 songs uploaded every day. Currently, Spotify has more than 100 million songs. I bring that up because a lot of things we're talking about how to make a living in the music industry, and obviously there's a lot of music out there. There's a lot of competition, a lot of people posting a lot of songs every day, a lot of musicians in your local scene playing shows, yada yada. There's a bunch of stuff out there. But one thing that can seem kind of intimidating at first is, man, there's 100 million songs on Spotify. I just released my first song.
Yeah.
How are people going to find me? Okay, there's a lot of people releasing their first song, but there's a lot less people releasing their second song, and a lot less people releasing their third song.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
so on, so on, so on. Then you get to albums. A lot less people releasing their second album. A lot less people releasing their fourth album. And at a certain point, you're not competing with 100 million songs anymore. You're competing with the other people who are doing consistency, building a artist, capital A artist profile and brand, and making a bunch of backlog of the music for people to listen to, because that's what, fans really want to dive into.
Right.
That's what you're competing with. And it's a lot, once you get to that point, it's a lot easier to stand out because there's a lot less people like that. So kind of like with this podcast, we just said 56.1%, I think was the number, of podcasts have 10 episodes or less.
Yeah.
So we're not competing with more than half of the podcast anymore.
Right.
When we first started, we were competing with every other
single
podcast
one.
out there.
Yeah. And it's amazing because, like, I don't know how many times I will go listen to a podcast or try to find like a podcast on something very specific, and they have one season and it's like, wow, this was great. And then they just stop doing it. And I just wish that they would go on more. Right. But obviously things get in the way or passions run out, but this is what we're kind of saying is, like, when you go and discover a new artist or something, like, you want to make sure that they have like a plentiful discography, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So just keep going. I think that's what we're kind of illustrating, it's just like, keep doing what you got to do and keep pushing it out and keep trying to grind it out, because you're only going to get better.
Push it. Keep pushing it out. Push it real good. Get it out. But speaking of which, that's exactly what, we're going to be talking about today, is how we are going to keep pushing it.
We're going to keep pushing it.
All the recipes are going to keep cooking. We're going to, change things up.
That's right. Which by the way, we don't have this in the outline, but we should really make an effort to tie material into our cookbook analogies, because we usually get so far into the episode that we're getting excited and we talk about these things that we sometimes forget to say, now it's time for dinner or something, something related to making a dish. This was like something that we came up with, like, I mean, maybe when did we talk about this? January, February? It was one day that you came over and we were just
when was this revised? Because
it was before that, wasn't it?
It was before we came with the idea of
this was completed in April.
Okay.
End of April.
I think it was end of April or May where we had the idea of No, it would have been before that because we were on the couch, which is behind where used to be behind where the camera is now. This whole actually Brandon's desk used to be where we're sitting right now. So this was before that. Yeah, probably in March.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we were talking, like I brought up like how I view listening to audio, or like how I sometimes break down audio by how I analyze coffee, right? So like you have the top end, that's the sugar, or like you have too much top end, or like it's a really brittle top end, that's like stevia, or something like that. And you were like, dude, that's like cool. At least like I kind of think about it like sometimes the same way. And we were like, whoa, I've always wanted to do a podcast. And you're like, me too. And then we were like, boom, like, let's tie it into food, right? Let's describe these things through food, because everybody knows what food is and what food tastes like. I think that's kind of how we got there.
That's exactly how we got there. Yeah. You're like, I describe it with food because everyone eats. Like, this was like spicy. What's the extra sauce that we need to fit in here? That's how it's really hard to communicate music with words.
It is.
And then you're like, I want to do a podcast. I want to do a podcast too. And we're laughing about it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm serious though. And you're like, oh yeah, me too. So we're doing it. We shook hands, and that's how it happened.
And that's how it happened. So there's a little bit of lore behind the podcast right there. So that's how we got started. But it's really just something as simple as that, right? Is like you come together with somebody else or multiple other people, or just by yourself, and you have this passion. Just start it. Just go. Just go.
Yeah. Yep. And revise as it goes on, which is something we've definitely been doing for the past 24 episodes. Sure. When we first started, we recorded our first test episode in my studio. It doesn't have a couch like this.
Nope.
It has a business chair and a rocking chair. If you go back and watch episode 2 on the YouTube channel, you'll see Brandon going.
Yeah. Sean gave me the mistake of the rocking chair, and I have a terrible like habit of rocking and moving, and it was awful. It was
I know I would have done the same thing. So
it's just fun.
It's very fun.
It's fun.
So we start off with that, and then we switched to here, started filming it like this. Brandon had the camera settings for outside recording.
Yeah, I did.
A lot of our early ones are darker. We learned to fix that.
Yeah, but I had the UV filter on that entire time, and I didn't realize it until I took it off. I was like, wow, the lighting is so much better. It makes so much more sense now. Like, why is this camera so fucking dark? Well, it was user error. But you learn.
Yeah, but you learn.
So.
Took us about 10 episodes before we got into creating social media. I think we created social media around the same time that we talked about it on our episode, because we're like, hey, if we're going to talk about social media, we should probably
do it.
One.
Yeah.
And since then, learning tools and whatnot to make it easy to produce that kind of content. And we didn't have all of it at the start.
Nope.
And you're not going to have all of it at the start.
Nope.
And things are going to change.
And you shouldn't expect to have all of it at the start.
No.
And it shouldn't be something that holds you back either, right?
Yeah.
You should do this naturally, and it should progress naturally, and you should pick up things along the way. That's just how it happens.
Oh, for sure. Because there's a lot of things that we're going to try to implement moving forward. So keep an eye out for these things to make it more exciting, more interesting, kind of evolve what this podcast is going to be about: the content, the stories, the people involved. In fact, a big announcement, surprise. We have nobody lined up for this yet, but we do want to but we do kind of want to start interviewing people.
Yes. That's always been like a big goal of ours, is to start interviewing people that are good at their areas within music, right?
Yeah. We do have a couple of quantifiers that need to be met before someone's on the podcast. And this is just so that it can be as valuable as possible.
Absolutely. And then that way the information is good as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like the first one first quantifier, we only have 2 at the moment. The first one is we would like the person we're interviewing. They're going to make a majority of their income with music or audio in general. Yeah. Be it they make a majority of their income as a venue owner or as a booker or as a manager, promoter, anything like that, running their other podcast or running their own radio station or blog or whatever it may be. That kind of investment into it where it's the majority of what they do. That way we can actually talk to them about super specifics and learn more about, what's actually going on. And same thing for artists. There's a lot of people out there starting off, and we want to make sure that we will have somebody on here who is having success with their recipes and is making a good amount of money with it, because that's our goal. All of our goals. So we can make a living doing it for as long as we want, and you kind of have to make money with it, make a living with it. So that's the first quantifier that we're going to be looking for with like potential guests.
Exactly. Now that I'm thinking about it, we didn't really discuss this beforehand, but I feel like this one has like a little bit of leniency. Like we're not relying solely on income thresholds for this one, so I want to put that out there, just to make sure. But I mean, if somebody's like pulling in $75K a year and they're making $100,000 at their other job, obviously they're pulling in the majority of their income through their other job, right?
Yeah.
But if they're making $75K on the side through music, well, we're still interested in that, right? Because like that is extremely helpful. So it's not solely relying on that, but there might be those little bit of caveats in there that we might be able to like kind of explore. But for the most part, this kind of is our like kind of golden rule, just because as we said, we want the information to be plentiful and accurate.
Well, I would personally say that our second qualifier would account for something in that situation.
Definitely.
Of which is have a unique and interesting story within the industry. And I think making 100K in your job and still having time to make 75K with your music is definitely a unique story. Like how can you have that much time to be that successful? Or what tips or tricks or recipes are you employing to have that much? Even though it's not the majority, it's still a unique aspect in the industry that not everyone's doing.
Exactly.
So that's our second one that's going to be a little more niche. So if you think there's something that you do that's really unique, or you're on tour, you make most of your money through music or whatever you end up doing, reach out to us at podcast@musicmakerscookbook.com and we can talk to you about potentially having any episode.
Yeah.
But
and then one last thing too, I think I would kind of want to add to is like this might be a potential. Then you and I should definitely talk about this. But one of our favorite podcasts, the Six Figure Creative, gets authors on here onto their platform, and they talk about like a specific book that they wrote or a specific concept within the book. I wouldn't mind doing something like that if we ever came across a point like that at some point that was very applicable to our listeners and to how you can help better build your business and move forward with it. But that would have to be like, I feel like a very specific case, and we'd have to be kind of like really into it too, and obviously have the availability for them, and
that'd be further down the line.
Exactly. It'd be way further down the line for sure. But like that is like, I think like a third potential thing.
Yeah.
But that's not something that I think you guys should count on in the immediate future at all.
No. It's going to take some time for maybe potentially that aspect, but anything that we think could potentially be valuable as incorporated into a recipe in this industry, we're going to want to have them on the podcast.
Exactly.
So our tentacles are out there, our eyes are out there. We're looking around, can send out messages soon, and keep an eye out. Hopefully within the next 5-10 episodes or whatnot. We'll be able to get somebody in on it.
Really
get some
cool.
unique experiences.
So and like we said, this will be like kind of like a work in progress. Obviously, our first one might not be our best interview ever, but we're gonna pick it up and we're gonna learn from it. Same thing with like the camera angles. Same thing with the audio setup. Everything like that. We will learn from it and we'll keep going. So
remember what we just said earlier. It's not gonna be perfect.
Exactly. It's not gonna be perfect right off the bat.
And that's kind of honestly, that's this whole podcast is of learning, talking, and exploring what you can do to make a living in this industry. Because I don't have all the answers.
No.
Brandon doesn't have all the answers.
Not even close.
There's a lot of things that you can do or have done that we've never done or experienced. So, we're in this boat with you. We're trying to learn. We're putting out our feelers, the effort, the research beforehand, so then we can, have a conversation and take it in front of you to express what we've learned in these conversations and whatnot. So as we have our own experiences, we have things that we've talked about, and the more we learn, the more we do, the more interesting and varied our episodes are going to be. So this has been 25 episodes. It's the birth.
Exactly. As much as I'd love for us to be like, what we do, you got to hold the gospel. That's not the case, right? The way that I always kind of wanted to do a podcast, and this is like thinking before we talked about this, is like, I want the podcast to be more discussion focused rather than us just jabbing at you, right? This entire time, right? This is like an ever changing field, and life is ever changing within itself. So I think like having a more discussion based format is better than just being like, you have to do this, this, and that. And there's no other way around it, because like that's not the case for everybody, right? And we try to explore all the gray areas that we can think of, but there are a lot of gray areas, right? So there are many different scenarios which is why we often ask you guys, hey, reach out to us. We want to hear about what you do, right? So I just want to put that in there too, is like, that's kind of how I try to approach it, is more discussion based rather than said, take this, do this with that. This will get you this result. It's not plug-in function, and then you'll get a result automatically. So,
well, with how varied it is, it can't be like that.
No, it's impossible.
So
it's impossible.
We talk about what we can and figure out the ways it can work potentially, and rest of it's from there. But not and if you've been listening since the beginning, we really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If you found us and started binging since the beginning, once again, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Actually, in the analytics, I can see when that happens, and it's always fun to be like, oh man, someone watched episode 1, 2, 3 this day, 4, 5, 6 the next day, 7, 8 the next day. It's really fun.
Awesome.
I really appreciate seeing that.
Seriously.
But if you've been watching from the beginning, we started off by saying like, this is what you need to do. This is the structure. These are the negative things. And these, if you don't do this one thing, we're going to say, and if you do the one thing that we're going to say, here are the positive aspects that you can get from it. And we've kind of since moved to more conversation based in these episodes, which I think they flow better.
I think so too.
They're more friendly. They're more communicative. Yeah. But not to say that there's not a place for these more tutorial based things, these more specific solution kind of things, which is kind of the next thing we're going to kind of expand on from here on out, is putting that on specific platforms that aren't just this podcast. Podcast is kind of the flagship of it.
Definitely.
The home, the hub. The home base, the hub. But we do have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all that. And we've got some things that we're going to start kind of dabbling with, putting together and slowly releasing while as time goes on from here on out, and see what picks up steam and whatnot.
Absolutely. And like a lot of the stuff that we're kind of talking about at this point, which I'll touch on later because it's one of my favorite episodes so far, is like things that you kind of have to be able to see to like know what to do and how to put it in context. So that's where the kind of short form content kind of comes in. And this could vary between summaries and tutorials. And mainly, I think these will be kind of spread out amongst every platform. Obviously, TikTok and Instagram will have their duration limits on there, but we'll try to also expand to YouTube at some point, I think, as well. I think we kind of talked about that. And I think I'm going to go, personally for me, when I make the short form content, because I have an idea lined up, ready to go, I just got to do it. I'm going to make it more YouTube focused, I think. And then we'll spread it out like that, as opposed to what you just did like a couple days ago, if you want to talk about that.
So,
I don't know. I just want to kind of hear your mindset, I guess, on the short form content that you're.
So here's my thought process on the short form content. We've had a couple people talk to us and say like, hey man, I love listening to your shorts. I like seeing a couple of the breakdowns of the podcast episode. Because what we do is we take clips from the podcast that, you know, we think have good information in it, but then post them out on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts and all that. And when we're talking, it's more conversation based, and it's harder to have a cohesive breakdown or summary of a point that we talk about in 60 seconds or less. So what I've been trying to do is write down the main ideas that we talk about each episode, and then record a quick summary of that topic idea in a more entertaining way. Because if you're not having fun, you're not taking it seriously enough.
Hey, you got it in there.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
A way that's more fun, and posting that short online so that people who maybe can't commit to watching a full 60-minute long podcast or listening to a full 60-minute long podcast can see a quick, 30, 45-minute long clip that, talks about the specifics of the ideas that we had in that podcast episode. So if you want to, if you don't have the full time to listen to the full episode, thank you for getting up the 20-minute mark of this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Seriously.
But yeah, we're kind of expanding, because we talk about the information on these podcasts anyways. So might as well put it in more bite-sized formats because it's good information. Yeah. Or can be helpful. So let's kind of break it down easy.
Bite-sized is a great way to say it. It's kind of like a snack, right? These are the snacks that are in between meals.
Or short snacks.
Short snacks. Handful,
so look for more
handful of almonds, right? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's just going to help further, I think, the content that we're able to provide for you guys. And like we said, I could just kind of put it into context and show you how we do it. Because sometimes like the things that we talk about, you can readily find on YouTube. And a lot of that information is very succinct. Like this person does it this way. So does this person. So some things we might do a little bit differently just from being a little bit more hands-on over the past few years. So we might be able to approach it in a unique perspective. So, and really the only way we kind of get to that unique perspective too is if you guys actually tell us to do something in a specific way, or you give us a specific scenario too, and then we can kind of approach it like that as well. So that just means reach out to us if you have any questions about an episode or you want us to cover anything more in depth outside of a podcast episode. Yeah.
Well, and that's why we are doing the more summary short things, because your buddy Eric reached out to you and said, hey man, I really like the shorts because, he's in Nashville. He's busy. He's a musician. He's not going to watch the full episodes. But if we can summarize it and put that information out for people like him, and in fact, a lot of you are trying to make a living in music. It takes a lot of time and effort, and if we can summarize and shorten it, that's something we're going to try to do.
Exactly.
So keep an eye open for more shorts content. That's going to be that's going to be out there.
Exactly. I'm really excited about it too.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah. And Brandon, you were talking about potential more long form content on YouTube and whatnot.
Mhm.
What kind of things are we going to be slowly dripping out there?
Yeah, so like the YouTube stuff is going to be more, I think, like technical based, I would say. For example, one of the videos that I'm going to do, hopefully within the coming day or so, is talk about episode 24. Episode 24 is out if you're listening to this now. We kind of go over a lot more technical stuff that you should know as a musician. And in there, we talk about tuning, we talk about playing to a click, and we talk about practicing. And I think I can kind of encompass that all into one video pretty succinctly, because I've been doing something similar to that. We do follow what we preach. I've been doing something similar to that recently. And I think I'm just going to make a really kind of like, it's not going to be super long form, 4 or 5 minutes, but still enough to kind of get the point across and not take up your entire afternoon, right?
Yeah.
So that is that's like more technical based stuff. Like I'm going to show you how to use a tuner, what tuner to use, how to play to a click, or how to practice to a click, which automatically means that you're playing to a click, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of just get familiar with these concepts along the way. And that's going to be kind of like the short form content that I think we'll be kind of relying on in YouTube, unless you have a different.
Yeah, just some more technical stuff. And even then also on the software side of it, or prepping for a road show, or more focused breakdowns of the episodes that we're creating for this. It said this is more conversation. There are ways we can condense it and put it into, more educational or technical episodes out there. So that's going to be out there. We also kind of want to talk, like, potentially expand the future to more, what are those, is it like book reviews, or no, what are they called? There's a certain type of autobiographies. Nah, there's a certain kind of content on YouTube right now that's basically like, 30 minutes to an hour and a half, 2 hours, where it's a mockumentary kind of, I guess. Yeah. And we're kind of this is going to be down the line. It may even be not started to come out until after episode 50.
Definitely. Yeah.
But there's the idea we have of breaking down musicians that have made it and go throughout their careers and talk about this. They employed this recipe. They got this result. They cooked up this. This is why they changed this. This is why we're doing this. Because a lot of things that we talk about are really easily visually represented by the artists that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And it'd be really fun to go through an artist's whole career and see how they cooked up their success.
Definitely.
So
yeah, even if they have a lot of information about that already. I'm thinking of Taylor Swift, of course.
Yep.
Shout out to her. She's the newest billionaire. Good for her. But yeah, she has like 2 different, or like a documentary on Netflix and everything like that. That's cool. That's not what we're aiming to do. We're kind of like going to take those and kind of summarize it and like put application to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is why maybe she did this, or this is
this is the history.
Exactly. Like, we're not going to be highlighting that, right? We don't have the history to do that, right? We can only go off what we see until we interview people like this, right? Which hopefully that'll happen one day. That'd be great. But we're going to try to break down what happened here, what happened there, right? That's kind of like what we'll be going for, I think. Yeah.
And also potentially talk about how the industry responded.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, we're living through it right now with the whole like Taylor's versions. Well, basically made the old versions of the masters almost useless.
Yeah.
Because her fan base just doesn't want to listen to the old ones. They want to listen to new ones. So
it's actually interesting, because I think we can break it down from like an audio standpoint too, of how hard it is to do these old versions over again, right? Like, I was just talking about it with my fiance. Don't mean to detour, but since we're on the conversation of Taylor Swift, I might as well talk about her. But like, there's this thing in audio I call it playback syndrome, but people call it demoitis, where you kind of get used to how something sounds and how challenging that can be to overcome moving forward in the next stages. But I think breaking down something like that is how she's doing these Taylor's versions. And if people follow suit, how hard is it going to be to cultivate that same listening environment or a similar one and keep the energy up like that and things like that? Because I think that's really important, because they sound different. They definitely sound different. So, and it's going to be like, which version is better, her new one or the old one? So total tangent for me. I apologize about that, but I think it's something that would be really cool to kind of highlight later.
Well, something to keep in mind, like now it's a big possibility for artists to do that can take control back of their music if they sold the masters or it's owned by the label. But kind of talking about how the industry is responding, I'm hearing and like seeing things about how a lot of record labels are now starting to put into the contracts and extending the time period before you're allowed to re-record the music.
Yeah.
And Whereas before it could have been like, 3, 5, 10 years. Now it's like 30 years,
Yeah.
50 years, because
Yeah.
they just don't want this to happen. Protecting their own asses.
This is disruptive innovation by somebody, right?
Exactly. And, the record labels don't want to be the ones getting screwed over. They're always the ones who screw over the artists.
Exactly.
So
They want to do the screwing, I think another cool thing would be kind of taking moments in history, not specific artists maybe, but like, for example, if we highlight the importance of piracy back in 2005, 2006, 2007, that era, when Napster was a thing, when LimeWire was a thing, and how important that was, and how we got from illegally downloading stuff to how we got to streaming, because there's a direct link. That is what got us to streaming in the first place, right? And how disruptive that was, and how the music industry had to change to adapt to how people wanted to listen and consume music. So I think taking little errors like that would be kind of cool too.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of breaking it down and seeing just how we got there and why we got there, and maybe what we can find later on in the future, and like what we can identify as like a pivoting moment in the industry as well. So maybe something like that too. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of topics that we can cover in the future. So keep an eye out for all of those. And if there's anything that you think would be fun for us to cover in the future, or things you want us to kind of dive deeper in, dive deeper in, then just let us know.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. Just let us know.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do with it.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on with, some content ideas going forward. And kind of now that we've done looking in the future, I'm done looking in the future. Done looking in the future.
I'm done looking in the future.
I'm putting the blinders on.
Yeah,
no longer looking forward.
Yep. Now I'm going to reminisce about the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of talk about the past 24 episodes. And we're going to start off with like what our favorite episode of the past 24 is. So if you got to this point and you want to go back and listen to our favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Brandon's favorite episode is.
Yeah. My favorite episode was episode 24. We had just recorded it literally last week. By the time you're listening to this, we recorded it 2 weeks ago. But this one, like I said, is more about the technical applications of musicianship and what you should know and what you need to know. I think this one covered everything that I've wanted to let people know about for a while, and what to maintain focus on, and then just to have in your back pocket, because I think these are applications to be used every day. And like, I enjoy talking about this stuff because all these things in tandem really add up to make a big difference. And honestly, it's like a professional difference at this point, right? So I that's just one of my favorite episodes. I think another reason why I like it so much is because I was very on top of it. I feel that day. Like,
oh my God,
I felt
you were
really good about it. So like, there's a little bit of bias there, but I really love the conversation that we had. It's actually a conversation that we're not done having yet. We actually had more written on that outline. I think we got to an hour and 20, hour and 30.
Something like that. It was definitely a little bit over an hour.
Yeah. So we actually had more coming from that actual episode that we had to like cut off. And I'm glad Sean did what he did and did that, made that pivot, because man, you would have been here for 2 hours listening to us. Seriously, we had that much on it. So, but that is one of my favorite episodes for sure. What's yours?
Just kind of on a nostalgic thought process of it, I got to go with episode 2.
Yeah, man.
Because episode 2 is the first episode that we ever recorded. It was our test pilot where we did it in my studio, as I was saying, on the chair, whatnot, testing all these things out. Used 58s, not great lighting on the camera. It was not the best camera.
Rocking back and forth. We were rocking the shorts, or I was at least. Were you rocking shorts too?
I was. Yeah, got the pasty thighs. So it was.
Yeah, because it was beginning of spring, man. We were some spring chickens, brother.
So it was nostalgic for that reason.
Yeah.
And also, it was fun for me because I was able to kind of, we were setting up the basis of our kind of conversational thing, because I was running through the very first thing that I do when I work with artists for artist development, and that's kind of running through a process of defining what your music's about, making it super simple to verbally break down to your fans and how to narrow your focus. We also talked about, Pinterest and creating a visual representation of what you are, and just really identifying your brand and the importance of that, which I said is the first thing I do with artists I work with for artist development.
Yeah.
And it was really fun for me to go through that with you and like hear the back and forth and get new ideas and talk about it. And then also create resources for it afterwards that we were then able to tie into the show notes of the episode. So if you go back to that episode and you want to go through the process yourself, you can go through and download the exact form that I've created that I use to go through that process.
Yeah.
And we've done that in a couple other episodes where, we've tied in our, like Brandon tied in his pre-studio recording list that goes through everything you need to take care of before going into a studio. Mine's on there as well. And we've got some other resources on other episodes throughout this whole first season, I guess.
Yeah, honestly.
So that was really fun, and we're laying a foundation of that.
Yeah, and if you go and watch the video and count how many times I rock back and forth, we'll do something celebratory. Just let me know, and then we'll figure something out. So I'm actually curious. That'd be funny.
What do you think it's gonna be like? Well, if you had to guess a number.
Oh man, I don't know. How long was the episode?
It's about an hour, maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Dude, knowing myself, I rock back and forth probably at least. See, one rock takes maybe a second to fully revolve.
You weren't rocking the whole time.
Oh, I wasn't? Oh, that makes it tough. I don't know, man. I wasn't ready for this question.
Just throw out a number.
4,500.
Really? Wow.
That seems high.
I was going to go 800.
I think I'm going to reduce it back to 1,500.
Okay, I'm going to go 45 then.
Dude, like, I feel like I rock all the time, so. But yeah, I'd be curious to see.
Roll.
I have a question for you.
You may shoot the question to me.
What's your least favorite episode?
Oh, I was not expecting that. We did not have this on
We don't have this on the outline, so this is a curveball.
I don't know if I have. Let me go through the list of all of our episodes real quick. I don't know exactly what episode it was, but probably the episode where afterwards we were sitting there and we're talking like, you know what? This doesn't feel good. Focusing on the negative right off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because as I said, when we started
off
about
that one,
yeah, and not like it was a bad episode, but it was when we realized because we would start off saying, "Hey, we have an idea of something you should be doing to further your career. If you don't do this, here are all the negative things that could happen."
Yep.
And then at the end, we're like, "So do this, and here are all the positive things that could happen."
Yeah.
Which you know what is a decent format.
Yeah. It felt very commercial.
It did, and I didn't like front loading the episode with, well, I mean, you could lose all your money, or your van could break down, or you could be taken advantage of legally, or all this stuff. It just wasn't fun talking about the negative up front.
I agree.
So while it necessarily wasn't my least favorite episode, the fact that it culminated at that point, I would have to say that one. I don't remember what
that was, but it was pretty early on.
I think it was 8 or 9.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Mine's definitely episode 23. I feel like I was just totally out of it that day.
Have you listened to it?
I haven't listened to it yet.
You have to listen to it.
Really?
Because
is it not as bad as I remember?
It starts off kind of slow, and then it picks up a little bit because there's good stuff in there. There's some energy in it, and then the last third of it, we just start going on tangent after tangent after tangent. And by the end of it, we're just out.
That was one of the episodes that Sean and we pressed stop on the recording, and we said, "What happened?" You know, and we never like that, and we never do that. Most of the time, we're like, "That was a good episode, cool," and then we're like, we just talk about other things. Or that was a rarity, and like so much so that I call it the cursed episode now because Sean pointed out to me this morning that when I uploaded it to his hard drive, the session didn't have any audio clips in it. And weirdly enough, I just pulled it open before we started recording, and mine did on my computer. So that was cursed. The way that we kind of like, I think just like approach that episode, not even the way we approached it, just the way that the episode kind of unfolded, like, and the things leading up to it too, we were just kind of like maybe not our 100% that day. Yeah. It was just cursed. It felt cursed. And, you know, if it works, it works. We were like, you know, we're going to put it out anyways because like there's still good information in here, right?
I mean, we did post it the week of Halloween, so.
We did. So yesterday was Halloween. Yeah. And that was
it kind of
something
works.
to be said, right? There's something to be said. So, and we're 2 weeks ahead, right? So would that put us on the week of Friday the 13th that we recorded it?
Could have been. Yeah.
So
it sounds about right. Something was in the air.
Maybe some voodoo going on.
Yeah.
Some voodoo.
Whichever one of y'all cursed us. It worked.
It worked. Thank you. So go and listen to that episode and let us know how bad it is or how much you like it.
Yeah. But that's nothing like we put it out there.
We put it out there. Still did it.
Still did it.
Still did it.
And we're going to keep on still doing it.
Yep.
Every Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Never going to stop.
Nope.
No breaks.
Nope. Even if we die.
By the way, so I have taken, Descript has a AI voice mode where you can replace certain words, or like if you say the wrong thing, you can just type an AI voice. And
that's wild.
It'll steal your voice. Yeah. So if you do die, I can make a podcast with you.
That's great. I don't know how to do it, so I don't know if I can do it for Sean, but yeah.
I said my voice
learn.
too. Yeah.
I'll learn.
Also, cool thing moving forward. I haven't told Brandon this yet. Behind the scenes kind of stuff. When we talked about how we're going to have potentially people on for interviews and whatnot. Descript, which is what I use for editing, just bought a software that's kind of like Zoom that records audio and video separately and then uploads it after. It records to the device and uploads it separately. So like if like they lose interconnection or whatnot, it doesn't. You don't lose the whole video or whatnot.
Oh, nice.
Or you don't get a blank. And then afterwards, it imports it directly into a Descript session. So what that allows us to do is we can get high quality video and audio recordings, not using Zoom or something. Now there's a software where we can do for interviews like that. So
that's great.
Keep an eye out.
That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So even people who aren't in Michigan or aren't in the area, we can get some good quality interviews with.
Absolutely, man. That's sweet.
We're audio engineers. We can't do anything that's not good audio quality.
It's true. It's true. I feel like that's against our code.
It pretty much is. Yeah.
That's sweet.
So
he didn't tell me about that.
No, I did. But now I did.
Now he did. I'm excited.
Once again, like the last thing I kind of want to go over real quick about going back over the past 24 episodes is we had both episodes that were specific towards a single idea, and then we also had a one or two series where back-to-back episodes, or for like our live concert series was from episode 11 to episode
18, 19,
17. So that's a 7 episode.
Yep.
Yeah, 17 episode stint. Episodes that related back to back to back. So I'm just kind of curious if you're still listening to this. We thank you. But also, which do you prefer? Do you like individual episodes that kind of that are self-contained and cover a topic idea, or do you like it when it goes back to back? It's more of a series. So let us know that. Now I'm also going to ask that question to Brandon. Which one did you kind of prefer making?
I did like the series.
It was fun, wasn't it?
Because it was easy to focus on it.
Yeah.
It was easy to come up with stuff from week to week. Like we could tie stuff back in to what we had said before in a previous episode. And like, honestly, the focus was just on that. Where opposed to like, where we have these one-offs sometimes. In this case, like we're kind of in the middle of a 2-off right now. It's a little bit harder to come up with ideas on the spot just because like there's so many different things to think about. And if you're not thinking about those specific things that day, then the topic's even harder to digest.
Exactly.
Right? Where opposed to when we were doing it for the live concert series, it was like, for what was it, 6-7 weeks, we were able to be like, okay, talking about this today, talking about that today, talking about that today. We had it all mapped out, ready to go. And I feel like we touched on it really well too.
Yeah, we could prep and do research on those topics beforehand, whereas sometimes it's like, hey, how much do you feel confident talking about this topic? I want to do more research. Okay, we'll talk about that later. What this topic? So having that kind of back-to-back series was helpful for that.
Yeah.
Because at this point we've covered a lot of the more broad topics. And now it's time for us to kind of dive more into the details about this industry. Yeah. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to take more time and more research beforehand.
Now, it's interesting. I do want to say that the way that I consume podcasts, I prefer not to have series done. For some reason, I just don't like listening to them all the way through. Really? I think they need to piggyback. I always feel like they piggyback off of each other, and I'm not always ready to give that time commitment, So the way that I consume it is a little bit different than the way that we produced it, or how I feel about it, at least. But I think in our situation, like I'm thinking of like more maybe like history-based stuff, you don't want to hear everything. You just want to get to the point.
Yeah.
But in our case, like I feel like we did it very succinctly to the topic, right? We were very specific on what we were touching on that day. So if you needed the live concert series all the way through, you had it. But if you needed a specific topic within it, we highlighted that.
Yeah.
Which is what I really enjoy.
That's a good point. Yeah. If you just want to know about pre-show promotion and what to do before the show. Cool. We have one episode that talks about pre-show stuff in that segment. If you want to listen to the whole thing, then you have the whole thing.
Yep.
So that's a good point.
And I want to touch on that too, is really quick, is like what you just highlighted is good, because it's like the thing that I'm thinking of is when podcasts do, this is the history on World War II. That's their title. Part 1, part 2, part 3. I don't want to I need to know what we're talking about in this one, because I need to know if I'm interested in this, right?
Exactly.
That's what I'm really focused on. And I think the way that we kind of did it, like how you just said, is the way that I would go about it. And I hope that was helpful to you guys too. So you didn't have to sit here and learn about things you already knew going into it, right?
Yeah.
Even if you wanted to do a refresher, that's great. But if you already have those solid foundations, then you can just move on to what you need to know.
For sure. Also, a question that I just thought of that I want to ask everyone listening right now. If you go through all of our episodes, a lot of times they like to put in food puns into the names. And I believe it could potentially lead to confusion of what the hell is this episode about.
Really?
'Cause I'm thinking about like for episode 13, like how to prep. Well, that makes sense. But like episode 11, ingredients to avoid so your live show doesn't taste sour. It's kind of clear. It's got food puns. But also, what? So just like if you've ever been confused or if you like the puns, just kind of let us know. Because I'd love to know if that's part of the charm that it works for you.
Yeah.
Any sort of feedback we are very, very appreciative for and look forward to getting.
Very much so. 100%. And I do want to take the time to say that reviewing the past 24 episodes, that if you go through and you've listened up to this point, we thank you very much. But what we're trying to do here is orchestrate some sort of a balance between what we talk about. Because this music thing it's big and it's all encompassing. The way that I think we've done it up to this point is we've had kind of music businessy topics versus musical application topics. Live concert series, very much musical application, but there was some music business stuff in there that we kind of like wanted to pull together. These things need to be pulled together, in my opinion, to have a sustainable, successful career within the arts itself. And that's what we kind of try to aim to do. And we're going to try to aim for moving forward as well. I know we had kind of like already moved on from the future stuff, but kind of touching on that, we might go into maybe more specific topics under that umbrella. So there might be maybe mainly music business on one episode versus there might be mainly musical application on one episode. So interestingly enough, episode 24, lots of musical application stuff. Very much, there was not a lot of business stuff on there at all from what I remember.
There wasn't, but there also, we talked about the application of it, of how it can, like having the skill can help in an application of it can save time, it can save money.
Exactly.
It can increase your skills so you can then leverage it to make more. And so there's always applications to this, which we try to cover. But you're right. It wasn't focused of like, yes, you need to do this because it allows this to happen in your business. And you got to like work about the back end of this and plan this out. And
Yep.
Yeah.
We're opposed to like the next episode that we're going to touch on is episode 26. And it's kind of like the next episode of our last musical application one might be a little bit more business focused because of the topics that we have highlighted under there. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. I think we're going to be talking about more. I think there's financial stuff in there.
Well, if you want a sneak peek. So
I want a sneak peek.
Yeah. So last time, kind of the whole thing was just kind of skills you could benefit from. And in episode 24, if you haven't listened, you go back and listen to it. We talk about technical skills, like maintenance and performance skills that you can benefit from and how they help. Next episode, we're going to be talking about either relational skills or financial skills or both, depending on how much Brandon and I gab on about.
Definitely.
But so that's way more into the business side of it versus necessarily the musicianship side of it.
100%.
And you need to do both.
You need to do both, right? And these things do run in tandem with each other, and it's important to have both skills brushed up on. Like I said, these are the two things that would really make or break a career within the arts itself. I mean, honestly, a career within anything, arguably, just apply it to your certain sector. But that's what I kind of wanted to highlight is our delicate balance between these two topics, because there are mammoth topics.
Yes. Very, very heavy. So I'm excited to dive into those.
Me too.
I'm excited for a lot of things that we got coming up in the future. It's going to take some time, but there are some other things going on that we're not going to talk about in today's episode behind the scenes that could make this a lot more efficient.
Definitely.
And a lot more fruitful. So keep our fingers crossed, and eventually, if it all goes well, we'll make another announcement kind of video about things happening moving forward.
Definitely.
So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, dude.
But I said, I got to keep some secrets up my sleeve. I'm not going to.
That's right. We can't give away everything.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you everything.
There are some secret recipes, dude.
Yeah, some family recipes where
sometimes
I don't want to share.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a good old home cooking, brother. That's it, man.
Man. So I think a good way to kind of end this, because I'm very happy with the first 25 episodes. I'm satisfied. Yeah.
Me too, dude.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you, Brandon, one final thing.
Oh, no.
That's not bad. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Are you cooking anything today?
Metaphorically or like actually?
However you want to answer it.
Metaphorically, I am cooking. I have some stuff I need to do within the studio, some projects related stuff. So I'm cooking cooking with the mixing. Like that's cool. You know what I'm
Nice.
saying? Mixing and cooking. But I also do want to get the short form content video at least started or at least outlined.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll be cooking like that. And I also have to go to the dentist. So hopefully nothing will be cooking there. Maybe good stuff.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, if I'm talking a little weird, my temporary crown on my front tooth fell out a couple days ago. My S's have been weird. I've been feeling like I've been talking weird. So if I sound a little bit different today, that's why I have to throw it out there. And if you didn't notice, then go back and re-listen and tell me how stupid I sound. But yeah, so that's what's going on with me. But I need to know, Sean, are you cooking?
So I'm actually having leftovers. I
Oh,
was cooking last night.
last night was Halloween.
It was. I had some homemade creamy potato soup made.
Well, you went with actual food.
I did, yeah.
Oh, I like that. See, this is
Yeah.
the balance that I'm talking about.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right now I have two main leftovers, and that is shepherd's pie,
Never
like
had it.
actual shepherd's pie with lamb, not
Wow.
the ground
Never
beef.
had it.
Or sheep, not lamb, sheep. It's pretty good.
I like sheeps.
You do? They're fluffy.
They're cute.
They're cute. This one's dead. It's in food.
He's unfortunately no
Yep.
longer with us. It's okay. I had ribs yesterday, so I like pigs. Pigs are cool, so
But the potato soup is really good. There's
sounds good.
a place that opened up near us. That's a fruit and veggie store. I'll tell you what the specific name afterwards.
Ooh.
That occasionally they'll put fruit and veggies or starches or whatever out front. That's close to expiring.
Mm.
Not bad, but close to it. We can get this whole box of it for like $3.
Oh, sweet.
So I got like, I'm gonna say 12 potatoes for $3.
Damn.
And then I had this other thing. I got a 10-pound bag of onions for $3.50.
Wow.
So I made French onion soup
Nice.
and used like half of it in one thing. Cause I gotta make French onion soup someday. I make a bomb ass French
Yeah?
onion soup. Oh yeah. So
Dude, fuck yeah.
We'll
I
do
gotta
that.
make you nachos one day. I make some great loaded nachos,
hell yeah.
bro.
Hell yeah. We
Yeah.
gotta have like a cozy sit-in.
So I'm thinking like moving forward. We have the holidays coming up. Like I said, yesterday was Halloween, so happy Halloween to everybody if you celebrate. I always take Halloween off, by the way. That's my tradition. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you work yesterday?
No.
Good.
No. I take it off every year.
Nice.
And I don't know why I do, but I just do. And I've done it for like the last 3 years, so why stop now?
Why stop now?
So I scheduled off every year. Don't know why. Maybe I always wanted to as a kid and never did. I literally have no idea. Or maybe there was just one time I just couldn't work that day, and I was just like, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna do this here too. So yeah. Anyways, but oh yeah, the holidays are coming up. What's I talking about?
Right.
Holidays are coming up. That means we might have an opportunity for at least one holiday episode, right? Maybe towards the Christmas time or Thanksgiving, depending on how things work out.
Holiday
Right.
special.
Holiday special. So maybe we'll do like some cool stuff that day where we do like a food thing or like this sounds like a fucking work Christmas party, but I don't mean to make it I don't mean to make it sound like that, but like
We're gonna have
something
the music makers potluck.
That's right. That's right. So maybe we'll do something unique. Maybe try to get other people in on it, depending on how organized we can be and how efficient everybody else can be and we can be.
Yeah, we're completely off the script right now.
This
We're
is-
just shooting the
yeah,
shit.
I'm literally just I'm riffing right now. So, but you'll be on the lookout for a potential holiday episode.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Even more things to keep in mind.
That's right.
So yeah, I guess the last thing I'm gonna say is thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around.
Yeah. Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you sharing this with other musicians that you know, be it the shorts, the full episodes, wherever it may be, helping us grow, giving us feedback, ideas, everything that you're doing. Really, really appreciate it. Even just listening, putting it on the background while you drive to work or whatever, really, really helps us.
Absolutely.
And thanks for cooking with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.